Okay, guys, just try. I'm going to be recording with OBS Studio right now for the first time. See what happens here. Um, but yeah, I want to come on here and basically, basically talk to you about this right here. This is the chatopenai.com, and right here on the left side, I'm pretty sure you can see that is all of the stories ideas that I've had ChatGPT kind of create. Basically, what I've given for ideas to percolate into reality. And what's interesting is when you look at, let's say, these right here, like this one right here, you know, you look at this and you're thinking, oh, okay, that looks really interesting. But here's where I want to start. See this here, basically, that my friend, is essentially where you come up with the idea and everything. In other words, you take something like this. So I'm going to select all on this. And what you do basically is you go down here because depending on how you use this, excuse me, if you use it on your tablet or your phone, the edit button is going to be right here. So that allows you to edit something in and then save and submit for like a second, for like a backup copy. So instead of like having this, you could have a 1 out of 2, basically. Essentially, what you would have, um, is basically this, but 1 out of 2, right? Now, this is the first one that I've done. This is the first one I did, right? Again, this is the idea I gave it. I don't know if you could read that, but I'm gonna kind of scroll. Whoa, that's a little too fast. I'm gonna go back up here. Hold on. But basically, this is essentially the idea I gave it. Very mishmash detailed, if you will. One of the ideas I gave it, right? So as you probably pause this and look, or look at it as I'm scrolling it, as you can see, basically, as you can see, this is everything I had it. I inputted into it, I should say, to make it create a story. And then, of course, this is the end result right here in the darker gray, or in the gray. This is the result. This is what it came up with. This is what it came up with and everything. And you're thinking, oh, okay, it's kind of interesting, right? It's kind of interesting. And then, of course, if you want to, get another version, there's regenerate response, and regenerate response gives you another version. For example, as you can tell right now, it's basically going and creating another version. And while it's doing that, what it may do, and it probably will do, is it'll basically ask you if you want to continue generating because it's a lot to take in, for the AI. So it'll ask you, like right there, it'll ask you if you want to continue generating, and you'll say yes, go ahead. Now, one of the things it might do at first, or not at first, but one of the things it might do on occasions is kind of start slow. Now, as you can see, it's done. And then it's going to ask you, was this better, worse, or the same? I'm going to say about the same, which is, basically by giving it that kind of answer, according to what it's saying, you give it that kind of answer, it's going to help it kind of evolve over time. Now, you say, well, now you might say to yourself, well, that's kind of interesting that they let that get across the board, right? Well, then get a load of this. So here's the one I did for Tails and Rosemary. This is a story I did for Tails' birthday. Just a little birthday story I did for Tails involving his mom. Now, here's what's interesting. I'll get into this in a moment. So I came up with this. Now, this is the 8th version I came up with because one of the things I'll do, whether I just want to just keep it as one or not, or I want to separate it, one of the things I'll do is I will number it, to keep it separate from the other ones. Now, like I said, just like I did here with the regenerate response on the previous story, I could save and submit and thus regenerate, or not save and submit, but, well, yeah, basically what I could do is edit the response I got, right? I can edit the response I got and everything, and then copy that and then save and submit, and then it'll generate a new version for me. That's what it'll do. Basically, it will let me do that. So I'll give you an example in a moment what I'm talking about. But you look at that and you're thinking, okay, it's a premise, a mom doing something nice for her son, right? And as you can tell, I did a regeneration 6 times. Now, on that one. But here's what's interesting about it. Look right there. It says the content may violate our content policy. If you believe this is to be an error, please submit your feedback. Now, sometimes it'll give you that, and then sometimes it will straight out say, we can't do it, it ain't happening. Even if it's beginning, to, generate, your story, it'll stop probably like, let's say, right about here or even here because, basically what's described in it. Now, the way it says it may, now the way it describes that it might violate the content is by having the entire thing that you put together in red and then giving you this red exclamation point kind of saying, hey, this might be in violation. Now, if I wanted to switch it up to where it would be, cleaner, maybe more, suitable, again, what I just did here is I just went to that. Okay, let me cancel for a second. Okay, so what I just did here is I went here to the edit button, and then of course it selected all of it just in case I want to like erase it and do it all over again. But then if I don't want to change anything, or if I do want to change something, I should say, if I do want to change something, then I will change it, like let's say right about here, then I'll press save and submit, and then what that will do is do exactly what this has done. It'll regenerate a second version, or it'll generate basically save is what I'm trying to say. It'll save and help generate a new version. So for example, let's say, I want to take, this off, right? I'll highlight that, take out the R, then I'm going to save and submit. Then watch what happens. Now you see what I meant by it said it'll stop? It's because of some of the things in there. Even though I took that out, it's going to stop. Because look what it says. And then again, it gives you that answer. Now if you want to try to say, okay, that's not true, let's try that again, you can try that again, if you will. You could try it again. So again, you'll have the option, which is right here, but now that option will not be available because you can't regenerate a response. It won't let you do that. That's the only catch. That's the only catch, that when you get this instead, you can't do anything. You can't do anything, so you're stuck with what you have here. So you're kind of stuck with what you got here. Now, here's the thing. The first 2 times here, I got a story. 3rd time, yes. 4th time, yes. 5th time, yes. 6th time, yes. Now you might say, well, why did it stop you there? That doesn't make any sense. It stopped me mainly because of the fact that, again, there's something in there that will prevent it. Now, if we want to regenerate one more time, look at that. It's regenerating without an issue, but it's still giving you that warning of, okay, this might violate or something like that or whatever. But you look at this and you say to yourself, well, shouldn't it stop it because of what's being described or what will be described? And I think what it is, honestly, is it's all about, as we continue generating here, it's all about the, not only like the keywords as I've mentioned before, but also like the key description of what kind of story it is. So in this case, what Rosemary is doing is she's role-playing, doing this role-play for her son of Detective Noir and everything, and she's really, fulfilling her side of the gift. She's fulfilling her side of the gift by being the seductress and everything, and really going all out for that. And Tails, basically, even into the next day, knowing she's still playing around with it, basically going into the next day, I should say, sorry, I kind of almost had a brain freeze there. But basically, Tails knowing that, hey, she's still into the game or into the role play, even into the next morning, he gets into it as well. Even though there are some moments in here that you would think, well, that shouldn't be, suitable to be part of that, but yet here we are. Yet here we are and everything. So, and then I mean, like you look at this scene, like right here, and all that. You say, well, wait a minute, shouldn't that be something that they should be against? Again, I think what it is, honestly, and this is just my honest opinion, I think it's all about the description of what you want wrote as a story. If you're telling it, even though it might feel it's in violation of the policy, when you tell it that it's a role play and everything that a mother is doing for her son for his birthday and all that or whatever, then I think that's kind of more acceptable. Now, as we just saw recently, that's not really the case. Because even if you take something out, it could be like, oh, what? Can't do that. Can't do that and everything. So, it's basically this is an example, a visual example, ladies and gentlemen, of the fact that AIs like ChatGPT are learning. They are learning as they go. Now, again, you look at something like this and you say, well, it's in the red, but why is something like, let's say, if we can bring it up here, something like this, if we can pull it up, something like this, where it's just, Queen Alicia in the role this time of as the leading character, being able to do all this and get very, very descriptive, if you will, get very descriptive, to the point that right here, you see this, and you're thinking, it's like, how can this, be, passable, and the other is violating? And I think again, it's all about how the story is detailed, and I think the story basically is, the story difference basically is that you have Rosemary, or not Rosemary, you have Alicia, or in this case, I think I did one for Rosemary. I think I did one for Rosemary. I think no, that's not it. Where's Rosemary's? No, that's not it. I think. See where it is. No. I think I really put it into. Ah, here we go. This might be it. Yeah. Like here. You see, again, it's basically the same story. All that's been changed is Rosemary in the place of Alicia, or vice versa. And you say to yourself, again, how is this possible? How is this passable and everything, right? And the reason it's passable, ladies and gentlemen, the reason it's passable, again, is this description of the story. In this case, it's just Rosemary, relieving herself of boredom from being stuck indoors because it's raining outside and everything. She's relieving herself of boredom, and she's letting her imagination just run wild, just go completely, completely out of whack, if you will. Just, letting her imagination, run wild and everything like that. That is what she's doing. That's what she's doing. In fact, I was just watching a video that Animat did. That Animat did a couple of years ago. Oh, about 4 years ago, doing the top 12 Garfield specials and everything. And one of the excuse me, one of the specials he was talking about was Feline Fantasies and Babes and Bullets. Basically, both of them had a similar I guess you could say premise. Had a similar premise. Babes and Bullets was a little bit more different because it was revealed to be, imaginary role play by Garfield at the end of the special. Feline Fantasies and everything was basically about using the imagination. And the last one they did was an Indiana Jones, James Bond like story and everything. And that all, and basically I looked at that and I'm like, well, that, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, of course, they're using their imaginations. They're having fun. It's just them, or it's just Garfield and everything. And here I see something similar to where it's like, it's raining in the story, and Rosemary or Alicia, depending on who I put in that role, is trying to find a way to get rid of the boredom, and what better way than to play out a seductive fantasy, if you will. And the way I describe it sometimes is they really get so into it that they just they just really let loose. They let the desires, the pleasures, and everything just really get to them, and go from there, and just end the story from there. So yeah, one of the things. So yeah, one of the things I think that makes it different is, or that makes it passable is, yeah, it may know or it may learn that, oh, this might violate, but it's more passable than violating because it's just one character and they're just role playing in a fantasy, an imaginary fantasy that they've made up to cure their boredom. With Tales and Rosemary, it kind of borderlines on that, but the reason it's kind of possible of violation is it's a role play that's being done, by Rosemary for her son for his birthday, but she's really going all out for it, and he's playing along with it, and all that. And the reason it's in that violation mode is because, we've seen, obviously it knows about all these other kind of stories to where, people will do fanfics or fan art or fan comics where Tails, believe it or not, will get it on with his mom because she finds him attractive and everything, and vice versa. So so yeah, to me, that is why that's more like in the realm of, oh, it might violate because it's between a mom and a son, and it could be considered incense. It could be considered incense and all that. While the others are more like, oh, it's just the girls, just it's just these two ladies, living out the fantasies, letting their imaginations just run wild, and they're just doing this to pass the time because there's no way they can go outside and have fun or do whatever. The bored, they're stuck inside. So as I've said before, this is just a prime example of you know this is just a prime example of the fact that sites like services like ChatGPT are still learning. And what they're learning is the difference of like what could be considered incense and what is not, but could be borderline, maybe PG-13, light R, hard PG, you name it. You know, or even edge very close to heavy PG-13, borderline R, and heavy PG, borderline PG-13. It's learning that. It's learning that difference with what you put in there. Another thing, that we have to be, aware of, and everything too, is there's a good chance it could repeat itself. Towards the end, there's a good chance. Like I think, like it just showed here, like here, like right here, you would say, okay, this is this part right here. I'm gonna highlight it. This part you would say is the end of the story, right? But yet here you see them taking another part of the story and everything. Well, actually, where is it? Okay, so you look at this and you say, okay, this is the end of the story, right? But as you can tell, they're adding other parts of the story. And it's like, why are they adding that? Because, again, it's learning, and one of the things it's going to be learning is not to repeat. Like, if you're going to give it a story idea, it should just do the story and be done with it. And we see that example, like I said, we see that example right here, where it's basically, okay, this is the story, we're done with it, that's it. So to me, again, when I look, as I've mentioned before, when you look at something like ChatGPT, services like that, it's going to have a lot of learning to still do. I mean, it says it right here, free research. It says may produce inaccurate information and all that, da 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 da. But what it also asks, again, when it gave me that violation part, as we go back up here. We're going to go back up here. Hold on. I'm going to get up there as quick as I can. You see, it says right here, and I'm going to highlight this. It says, may violate our content policy. If you believe this is an error, please submit your feedback. Your input will help will aid our research in this area. So what they're saying for the AI is that if you tell them, no, it's fine. it's just make believe. It's just a mother and a son role playing for his birthday, and yeah, they take it a little further than planned. If you let them know that yeah, it's an error and there's nothing wrong with it, to them that helps them out. That helps them understand. Okay, there are going to be stories like this, but these kind of stories are mainly like for role playing. It's like for role playing, and everything. I mean, what it's going to learn basically is to decipher that difference, because when it says it may violate, it's also thinking like you could take it a step further. Like, let's say you have them, you know, where's the okay, okay, that's not it. Let's go to the story it produced. Let's go to the story. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's say like right here with this thing, this part right here. You could say, well, I'm surprised that got in there, and it did. It is a surprise that it got in there, but it's because it's role playing. It's in fun. It's in jest, if you will. Even though it's kind of taking it to another level in that scenario. But what's interesting though is because it looks at like something like that as maybe violating the policy because of a scene like that. What it's learning is what it's learning is to decipher the difference of, let's say you take a scene like this, and then you say, let's say you add on saying, oh, and then Tails they got so into it that Rosemary had Tails take her from behind and just boom 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 boom, if you know what I mean, and everything. um if what it's deciphering is the difference of something like this, and then something being added on of Tails going boom boom boom, if you know what I mean. Now I wouldn't be surprised that if maybe you put you know a description like Rosemary had Tails take her, hold her from behind and do boom boom, it might pass it. But then again, it might also take Tails holding Rosemary from behind and doing boom boom. It might decipher that as, oh, that's not going to happen, kind of deal. So again, it's all about learning. In the end, it's all about learning. And one of the things it's learning is like the difference of what could be that borderline of hard PG, light PG-13, hard PG-13, light R, and everything. It's learning that difference in the story description that you want it to turn into a story. So overall, again, it's learning. It is learning, the differences, and as it learns, the more it will improve over time. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. We'll have to see. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Love to hear from each and every one of you on this. And until next time, I am out.